Hello again and welcome to the third video of the English Literature video lessons covering Remains by Simon Armitage. This is lesson 2.1 and today we will be asking how can I make sense of the themes and big ideas of a poem. So we've thought about the meaning of the poem, we've got the ideas and the general story together, but now it's time to look a bit deeper to see the themes, the big ideas, the thoughts that were in the poet's head and the issues that Armitage wanted to deal with when he actually wrote this. So let's get straight into it. Make sure we've got notepad, pen, copy of Remains. Let's have a look at our key vocabulary for the day and then we'll get on with our spotting and analysing of the themes. Vocabulary today is themes. If we don't understand what they are, then we're going to really struggle, so let's make sure we're clear. These are ideas, big ideas that recur. They show up again and again. That means in a piece of literature, poetry, TV or film. So they're the big ideas the writer wants to explore. And here you can see these are really common themes in literature. The idea of judgment, of survival, peace and war, love, heroism, good and evil, the circle of life, suffering, deception, coming of age. Pick your favourite film, your favourite book, your favourite video game. I promise you one of these themes at least is in there, because these are the key themes that so much of our literature is built upon. When we read a poem, we are looking to spot what those themes might be. The context has given us some clues already, so we are in a good position to dig them up and understand them. And the second word that I want you to understand is depth. That is to have many layers, to be complex, to be extensive and detailed information and knowledge, and requiring thought and consideration. So the iceberg, you can see a tiny portion at the top here, but the deeper we go, the more we find. And this is a useful visual metaphor for the way we can approach poetry as well. The deeper we look, the harder we think, the more we can get out of a poem, out of a line from a poem. And it is really all about thinking, and that's why I've got the famous statue, the thinker, here as the other visual clue in my definition today, because depth is all about something that makes you think, but also the act of thinking, of sitting down and putting your brain to work to go deeper than just the first reading of a poem. And that's where the themes are. They're deeper down. We're going to spot them today. I'm going to show you how we do that. So when we read poetry, we're looking for depth. Here's our friend the iceberg again. You'll be seeing a lot of him. And at the top, above the water, we have the explicit or the immediate meaning. It's not hidden. It's right there to be seen. And this is what the words are showing us. It's typically one agreed interpretation. If the character said, I ran, the character ran. They're showing us that they moved quickly in a direction. And that's a good starting point, but we can't stop there. Nobody's going to be impressed by my ability to say what a word is showing me. Where it's really important is when we look at the deeper part, the implicit or the possible meanings, the meanings that are hinted at, the meanings that we can draw out by mixing our own experience and ideas with what the poet said. This is what the words suggest to us or even symbolize. And there can be multiple interpretations. I could look at one line from a poem and say it might mean three different things, and that is absolutely fine and even encouraged for me to do. There are many possibilities, and it's up to the reader. What really matters is your ability to explain why you think that, and to really convince whoever's reading your answer that actually you might have a point. That's why we look at themes, and that's what we're doing today. We are looking for depth. Now, the themes of Remains, four that we could work with really effectively, are the effects of violence, guilt, the experience of soldiers under stress, and how war and conflict changes people. So we can find these ideas explored within this poem, and that's what we are going to do today. You might choose to make yourself a little grid that looks like this maybe, or perhaps you're simply going to write some headings out. But what you're going to do is go through the poem, and I'm about to go through the poem myself, and look for lines and words that link to that theme. You might recall that when we looked in video 1 at the word cloud and made connections there, words like rips and bloody, I linked them to the idea of violence, so they'd be very at home in this box. But we're not going to stop there. We're looking for other phrases and other words that have those connotations. And don't forget that a word could go in multiple boxes as well. So when he talks about his bloody hands, that's the effect of violence in literal blood on his hands. But also when we talk about having blood on your hands, we're talking about guilt and the figurative or the image of blood that represents it. So I'm about to get on with that on the poem, and I'm going to show you how I would start doing that, and then you are going to complete that activity yourself. Okay, so I've switched to my overhead camera now, so we can have a look at my copy of the poem. And what I've done, just to make life easy, is have the different themes listed down the side of my paper here. I recommend that for you, it's probably better to do it on just a different piece of paper, because by now you should be making notes all around here. I'm just doing this on a fresh copy. I'm going to try and keep this focused as best I can and start moving through the poem and just showing you what I'm looking for. Got my highlighter too. So I've got effects of violence, guilt, experience of soldiers under stress, and how war changes people. So let's have a quick look here. Another occasion. He's under stress right there. So I just nip down here. Another occasion. Not worrying too much about ultra neat presentation right now. If I can read it, that's fine. These are my personal notes. Let's have a look. Tackle looters raiding a bank, and one of them legs it up the road. Probably aren't. Possibly not. That's a really, really powerful phrase. Going into guilt here, because of course, if he shot a man who wasn't armed, then he wasn't acting in self-defense. He's committed murder. And that bothers him. He doesn't know whether he should have killed that man or not. He doesn't know whether it was right to fire. Let's keep going. Myself and somebody else and somebody else. That's kind of interesting. He won't name his colleagues. So that probably links both to experience of soldiers and also guilt. Doesn't want to drop his friends in it. And maybe we could look at how war changes people as well, because he is loyal to his friends, his soldiers. He's trying to protect the people in his squad. All three of us open fire, three of a kind, all letting fly, and I swear. That idea of letting fly, that that there's almost something enjoyable, something fun, something amazing about firing his gun. There's a violent joy in that. And, the violence that he lives around has maybe made him into a violent person. And then we've got right here. And honestly, that entire verse for me is all about the effects of violence. But if I wanted to go a bit more detailed, and I really should, I can't just tell you 5 lines. I should really be thinking about rips through his life, sort of inside out. These are shocking images. These are violent, horrific images. And so, as well as effects of violence, rips through his life, goes into guilt because he's realizing what he's done to this man. How war changes people. The man he's shot, of course, his life is over. But it's not only his life that's been torn apart by this act of violence. The soldier himself, and he's changed by what he did. He is shocked at it. He's revolted by it. He can't forget it. This moment changes his entire life from this point on. And by going through it this way, by linking these words, these phrases, to my quotes, my quotations, I'm beginning to see how this poem is built on a series of ideas, and how the story keeps returning to these ideas. And then when I have to write about this poem, I can build my answer around these big ideas. And that makes for a really convincing and confident answer. And that really does make the difference. So, having seen what I've done, it's now time for you to go through the rest of the poem. Okay, so you've seen how I was doing this, and now it's time for you to carry on and work your way right through the poem. Find words and phrases that link to the themes. You've got 10 minutes to do that. Time yourself, stop after 10 minutes. That's the end of this video, and then you're ready to move on to the next, where we will start to work with the themes and start putting them together into an answer. So once again, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.